Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, take a look at the dollar, 10-year, 30-year yields, precious metals, and work our way through all the commodities that I follow. Again, if you guys need any help with choosing companies or finding different companies or looking at charts, definitely check out the finding-value.com Platinum membership. I talk about my portfolio and a lot of the stuff that's going on with the charts and individual companies. All right, so diving in here, let's go right into the DXY. So DXY, again, it's a relative strength indicator of the dollar. We've broken down through that support resistance line, and we're getting some support here. So it's a battle between the buyers and the sellers, or the battle between the currencies, and we're just playing with this support resistance area. Which way is this thing going to go? I think it's going to go sideways is what it's going to do. And then we'll see if we roll over and head lower. A DXY that is going up is a headwind. When it goes down, it's a tailwind for anything that's got dollar pricing in it. Now, the 10-year yield is pulling back. That looks good from the perspective of, we'll say, gold, silver, and those types of investments, because what you want there is you want a more real negative yield. A more real negative yield is good for gold when this goes lower. So we're looking at the relationship of, we'll call it yields on bonds, and the relationship of what inflation is out there. And usually the larger this gap becomes when you have inflation going up and yields are delayed behind it or are going down, usually precious metals do well under that scenario. Bonds continue to go higher here. Looks like some people are buying some bonds. Is this a good buying opportunity? I don't know. I'm not jumping out in front of that momentum train, but I will say that you are getting a wick at the bottom here. That's usually a bounce or reversal pattern. And we could see a bounce here to the upside. Now, what is difficult is how big is this bounce going to be? Are we going to put in like some up days like this and just kind of roll back over? Do we put a double bottom here? Do we do something like that? That's probably likely, and that's what I would be looking for. But we don't know what this bounce is going to be out in the future, the next month or two. And that's what we have to watch. If we get a weak bounce where we just get candlesticks that look like this, and then it goes sideways, and then we come back down, that is a continuation pattern. If we get really strong, let's say we gap down here, we put a huge big candlestick up like that and puts a big bullish engulfing, then I would say this is a bottoming pattern, we're going to go up. So right now, we don't know which direction it's going to go in terms of the bounce. Looks like we're going to bounce, but we need to see how strong that bounce is. TYX is also reversing here. Look at the daily candlesticks. We can see some reversals here. Again, we have to see how strong this move is to see if it's sustaining or if this is just a pullback and more moves higher. What drives yields is inflation. So inflation is the one that is driving all this. So if you look at inflation, and that's usually the price of oil, it looks to me like this is probably going to be temporary for some period of time as energy pauses, and we could see a pause in real estate, and then we'll have to evaluate where everything goes from there. But I think energy is going to continue to be an inflationary driver. I think it will continue to go higher. It's now up to the other areas like food and also housing for that CPI inflation number. TYX to TNX, this is usually a good sign when you see it go up like this, and it looks like it wants to go higher. And that's usually a tailwind for precious metals. And last time we had a really good precious metals run was in 2018 timeframe, which was this 2018 timeframe here, all the way to the peak of 2020. And the peak is August of 2020. So that was our big move higher. This is in gold. This also was a pullback, which gold does not like this market conditions. Think of it as inflationary and the curve inverting. Now the curve is uninverting a little bit. That's what this little guy is here. We're trying to put in a bottom, and I think gold's trying to put in the bottom as well. We have to watch this, see what it's doing. We have to see the inflation numbers, because inflation is what drives this curve kind of to invert. And we have to worry about it uninverting. And when it uninverts, that's when gold does very well. So looking at commodities, it's basically flat today. Just a little, I call it the bloody nose. You get a big tall candlestick with a small down candlestick. It's a profit-taking day. Again, I refer to it as a bloody nose, a continuation pattern. Tall guy with a little red sell-off. Gold, again, a little down day today. Nothing really too worrisome here. I'd like to see some buying pressure step in and really lay down some fat candlesticks to the upside to give me some confidence that we're about to break out. Right now, we're just kind of drifting sideways. Not too many buyers, not too many sellers at this time in terms of the imbalance between the two. Silver doing the same thing, just moving sideways. It could be considered a bloody nose. It's close. I like seeing a little bit taller candlesticks, more like this guy here. And we'll see what happens. Platinum also outperforming, getting a little wick at the top. It looks like we tried to run. Still some sellers down there, but less so than before in terms of these turning points. So that's looking better. XAU to gold ratio, we're coming on back. We'll probably do a retest of this line at some point. That's what we could be doing right now. And then looking at GDX, we're right on that resistance support level. So we're getting resistance there, just like we thought. And now we got to break through it. That's what's ahead of us. SILJ, it's the same thing. We're trying to get out of that resistance support level, that band that we're still in. We've got it there today. And we've got nice, good support all through here. We just got to work our way sideways before heading higher, is what I'm seeing. Rolling down to crude oil. Crude oil looking, let me get off logarithmic here. Crude oil looking a little bit better. Up a little bit today. Not, nothing to write home about. I mean, it's not a huge up day. It didn't finish strong. Nothing that I really look for. It's kind of more like a profit-taking day, bloody nose almost. And then we'll see if the buyers come in tomorrow and basically throttle it. If we see a throttling, hopefully we can move on up, break this high down there, $92 or so, close above it, and then we're in a new uptrend. Natural gas moving higher, looking good. It looked like it gapped open, and then the momentum kind of fell back down. So the momentum is actually lower, although we finished up. I do think that we'll bounce around in this general vicinity for a little bit. There's a lot of momentum behind this move, and that move needs to dissipate that energy first before rocketing higher. XOP getting a little bit more selling pressure up here. We knew that we weren't in free and clear. Like I said, with the platinum members, I'm not a buyer necessarily here. I gotta see some buying pressure up here. We're in kind of that resistance level area. But we'll see where this thing goes. This is a bearish piercing candlestick, which usually heads a little bit lower. Now, I wouldn't get all bearish and say that we're going to necessarily move back. If you notice, we've got a low here. We have a little bit of a higher low. This thing could come back and loop one last time. And that's kind of what I'm thinking it's going to do. Or what we can do, it may not loop that low. We may only come back to this resistance level right here, support level, and bounce that way. So look at this support level, 147.50 and XOP, and that's probably where we're going to get some support. OIH, also a little bit of a selling pressure day again. We break out of these things. They usually break with a lot of force and volume. We've seen that. That started with this bullish engulfing candlestick right here. That's what drove us higher. And then we broke through, and we almost always do a back test, and then we go. So I'm not as keen on the energy service companies in the short term. I do think that we're going to get some resistance. It'll draw us back to that trend line, and then we use it as support and launch eventually. Looking at uranium, uranium on the futures contract pricing is flat. So we're flat here, or this could be considered a little bloody nose, something like that. usually a continuation pattern to the upside. This is on a weekly candlestick basis. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, we're getting that little down candlestick on the weeklies. We could pull back a little bit. We've got some resistance at this line. We knew that this is a resistance line, so we're coming up to it. We've got resistance at it. It's at 1815. We want to close above that, get up there, and get above that line to use it as support. We're not there yet. We're trying to break through it. Uranium getting a little bit more selling pressure today, probably came from Camco. So that is a bearish engulfing. We could head a little bit lower before heading higher. And again, I don't know how far this will pull back necessarily. It could only be one. Maybe we gap down and then we head back up. Depends how many buyers are there. But this is a bearish candlestick in the short term. And the buyers could come in here and reverse this immediately. So don't think that we're just going to blow down to the downside. We have to see how much selling pressure there is or buying pressure next trading session. CCJ is the bearish engulfing, more of a bearish candlestick here. Could have filled this gap. Are we going to go lower? Well, that's what we're going to see. We have to see what this does next trading day. If we rocket launch lower, like if it really takes off to the downside, we could see some more selling pressure here. Kind of a mixed bag amongst all the companies. TAN still looking all right here. We're right on that support line. And again, symmetry-wise, left side is like the right side. If you break this in half, and then after it, we could see a big move to the upside. If this goes up the same way that it fell, which a lot of the times, given where the resistance levels are and support levels are at, usually does that. Looking at COPX, down today, down 1.2%. It's a bloody nose from what I like to see. That looks pretty good from a bullish perspective for a continuation pattern higher. Think of it as profit-taking day. We're sitting on top of a support level. I say that looks pretty good. CRB to S&P 500 heading a little bit higher. I know that the overall markets had a little bit more trouble today, we'll call it. Trouble, down day. And then looking at REMX. REMX does follow the overall markets. We're above support. We've got nice big bullish engulfings here. We've got a down day. It's not necessarily a reversal candlestick. It's close, but I think we're just going to kind of move around before heading higher in this general vicinity. Lithium's doing the same thing. We've got bullish piercing, bullish engulfing there, and we just got more of a bearish candlestick today, and we'll see what happens with the overall markets. So here's the overall markets. S&P 500 getting a down day. It's not a real huge down day. It is technically a bearish engulfing. So we'll see if we get a little pullback out of it. But this is a pretty good drive out of the bottom here. So that looks good. And then U.S. Composite Index, again, we had a down day, minus 1.63%. I'm sure that has to deal with some of these larger tech companies releasing earnings, getting hit. But again, I'm not a bull on this camp. I think short term it was looking pretty good. I think some of the wind, or I should say, maybe there's some holes in those sails after earnings here, and the wind's getting through those sails now. Earnings is a fundamental driver, and right now it's looking a little bit weaker in the short term. So we'll see what happens here. You know, we have to see what the response is this next trading session, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. EEM. Stronger dollars, weaker EM, that's pretty much inversely correlated, right at supportish area. XHB, lower interest rates, slightly higher. It's a little kind of bloody nose type movement. Still looks all right. Nothing really to say there. Lumber, yeah, it's a small little down day. It's still in control. We're probably just doing a retest of this, and then we'll see where we go from there. I think higher. Nickel, this guy just keeps... This is like a dead market now almost. Like it just goes sideways. Ever since the market broke here, it's been like almost under control. It's like they got the JP Morgan guys over there like, hey, look, we need this gold and silver team to come over to nickel and hold this thing down. Here's cocoa futures. Cocoa futures look good. I think they're going to go higher. Not much selling pressure over here. It's mainly just a grind sideways, but there's some glimpses of some buying pressure through here. So cocoa futures looks good in the short term. Wheat futures are still above support. That still looks good. There's not much selling pressure, but not much buying pressure either. Soybeans just doing the same thing, grinding sideways. And then corn grinding sideways. We're grinding sideways in all of these different commodities at this time. Copper getting the bloody nose. Looks like it's a contagious bloody nose because everywhere's getting it. That's a continuation pattern to the upside. It's a big green candlestick, small profit taking day. I call it the bloody nose, big tall guy with the bloody nose. And then we'll, usually it's a continuation pattern to the upside. Moo is moving higher a little bit. Again, we're hitting our head on that resistance level. That resistance level is this little line I drew in here where we bounce, 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 bounce. We bounced on that like 8 times in a row. And now we're hitting our head on it. And we'll see if we either break through it and go, or if we hit our head on this resistance line and head a little bit lower. So we're at that decision point of which way we want to go. And right now we've got buyers equal to sellers with these candlesticks opening and closing price. Basically, it's in balance, so to speak. Aluminum bouncing higher. Hopefully that's an updated tick, but that looks really good. Nice big bullish engulfing. Higher is what I would say with that type of setup. Iron ore, this was one that was contracting down into a spot here. And what we want to see is we want to see some buyers step in here and show us a big bullish engulfing. Usually this is a positive signal, and it doesn't mean that it has to necessarily turn around, but what you see is you start to see these things consolidate and get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you break. And what we're doing here is you're seeing that kind of get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then we're looking for a break to the upside. I think that would be positive for dry bulk shipping, and that's why we're watching this, and it looks like we're basically coming right into a point here that we're about to break, and falling wedges from a statistical probability break to the upside. So it's bullish, which is also good for the diversified mining companies as well. And that's why I'm seeing bullish setups over there as well. Looking at the Baltic Dry Index down today, it is losing a little bit of steam. It looks like it's got the same holes in its sail as well. But it's right around that support resistance line. That line has been used all the way back. I don't know if it, we'll see how far back it goes. Into the 80s, that resistance line support level. And it is a strong line of support and resistance. I think once we break through this, we could see a big old move. And I'm positive in terms of sentiment wise against dry bulk shipping for a variety of different reasons. Those reasons can include, we'll say the supply chain shortages, increased fuel costs, which I think they'll slow the ships down and all that. I don't think they can build them as quickly as they think. And I think things will get stuck, and it'll be a huge barrier to entry when ships come offline, prices start to go higher, and there'll be a shortage of shipping. That's kind of my guess. Oh, I don't know when it's going to happen. It's out in the future, obviously. But right now, looking at it, bullish natural gas, bullish oil. Surprising that uranium got some of its, I would say, a little bit stronger selling pressure there with some bearish engulfings. Does that mean that, we're going to turn and head lower? I want to see what these next couple of days show me. If they show us that the buyers are still there and we start rocketing on up, ultra bullish. If the sellers come in and lay some fat down candlesticks right after, well, that's a lot more bearish. So we're at that point where we're coming up against those resistance levels. We're hitting our head. And now we're going to see who's going to win. Are the bulls going to win and push it through, or are the bears going to be successful and hold that level and push us down for a little while? That's what's happening. We're just fighting back and forth. So overall, precious metals, it looks like the market conditions are changing positive for it. So if you look at some of those market conditions in terms of interest rates and the dollar, if the dollar continues to head lower, DXY, I know we were up today, but if it does head lower, that's bullish for the dollar, bullish for anything priced in dollars, which is all commodity related. And then if we got the yields that start to pull back with it, think of it as a real negative yield, which is also positive for gold, silver, and all the precious metals. So that's what I'm seeing. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you guys like these updates. Give me a thumbs up. And if you guys haven't checked out the website, check out the website. I may be may, I haven't decided yet, do a November discount offering if you guys want to take advantage of that. We're not there yet, but we'll do kind of like a back half of November for we'll do like a Black Friday special where you guys can try it for a couple of months at a lower discounted rate if you guys want. And if you guys want to do that, definitely put it in the comment section. I can give you guys a discount for like 2 months or something like that, and you can try it out and see how you like it. All right, guys, that's what I've got for today. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.